Okay guys, welcome back to this series of videos on the Over the Wire challenge. Bandit level 12 is what we're getting into today. Um, so let's read our brief while I connect. So the password for the next level is stored in the file data.txt, which is a hex dump of a file that has been repeatedly compressed. For this level, it may be useful to create a directory under /tmp in which you can use mkdir or with a hard to guess name, or better use the command mktemp with the flag /d. Then copy the data file using cp and rename it using mv. Okay, so let's connect here. I will be using this notes page as a reference because this challenge is fairly long-winded, but it's basically repetition. So we have the data.txt file, which is a ASCII text file, and if we read it, it's a massive hex dump. So it doesn't make too much sense without us decoding it. So let's make the temporary directory that we can work in, which was mktemp/d for directory. It gives us the location of our temporary directory. So let's copy and paste that with Control-Shift-C, and then let's copy the data.txt file into this directory, and then navigate there ourselves, and then see if we have the data file. We do. Okay. So I'm going to read from my notes now, because I think this is a challenge if you're a beginner, like I was when I did this the first time, that I think was quite like a bigger step for me, this challenge, and it's not something that I could have worked out on my own, I don't think, or if I could, it would have been a long process. So basically we've got this data.txt file, and as we saw in the brief, it's been repeatedly compressed. So it's initially a hex dump of a repeatedly compressed file. So the first thing we need to do to reverse its initial state as a hex dump is use the xxd command, and if I use manual of xxd, make a hex dump or do the reverse, which is exactly what we want. So we'll do that, and then we'll read from my notes. Let's quickly check what the flag is for making a reverse. So in this case, it's xxd/r, which is revert, which is reversing a hex dump into a binary dump. So we use the xxd/r on our data.txt file, and we get this. So what do we need to do? We need to output that instead of the standard output into a file. So xxd/r on that file, and I want you to transfer it into unhex.txt. Cool. Now we have unhex.txt. So from my notes here, we're basically looking to practice decompressing files. So our xxd command output this file, the unhex.txt, and then we use file on whichever file is output to see what library or function was used to compress it. So in this case, file.unhex gzip compress data. So gzip was used to compress this data. Depending on what was used, we use the mv command to rename the file with the correct extension. This is because if gzip was used to compress the file needs the correct extension in order for gzip to operate to uncompress the file, if that makes any sense. So if gzip was used to compress it, gzip's going to need to be used to uncompress it, and in order to uncompress it, it needs to have the right extension, so gzip recognizes that file as something that it can use. So in this case, unhex.txt was a gzip compressed data file, so we need to rename that unhex to unhex. Well, let's just call it data.gz. For example, if the file was compressed using gzip, we would use the .gz .gz extension. If it was bzip, we would use bzip2. If it was tar, we'd use tar. Okay, so now we have this red file here, which is our renamed file. I've got a nice little guide here, so we don't have to read the manual for every single compression command. But basically, for the zip compressions, we use -d to decompress, and for tar libraries, we use the xf for extract file. So we've got our data.gz. So we're going to invoke the gzip command with decompress flag on our data.gz file and run that. And now we have a new file called data. So this is where it gets repetitive. We repeat these steps until the file returns to an ASCII text file instead of a compressed file. So it's literally operate on the file, find out what library is used to compress the output of that operation, rename the file to the correct extension, and then use the correct compression library to decompress, and then repeat. So in this case, what was used? File data. It's a bzip2. So next step is rename. mv data to data.bz2, which is our extension, excuse me. Check we've got that, and then use bzip2 /d on data.bz2. Check what's output, another data file, file data, gzip this time. So we rename mv data to data.gz. Check that worked. Use gzip, decompress on the data.gz. Check what we've got. Another data file, file data. This is a tar archive, so we use the .tar extension, mv data to data.tar, and then we use the tar command xf extract file on data.tar, and then so here we've renamed this, but when we extracted the file, we got a new file, which is data5.bin. So as you can see, our file data.tar is still a tar archive. So this one's spent. We've used this one. This is the new output. So to avoid confusion, we're going to remove data.tar, and now we're only working with data5.bin. Check what was used to compress that. That's another tar archive. Rename it. Use the tar command, extract file on data5.tar. And then we have the used extracted data5.tar file. So this one is already used. We've extracted this one already. And the file that it extracted was data6. So we're going to remove data5 to avoid confusion. Check what was used to compress data6. It's a bzip. So we rename that again. Cool, renamed. Now we use the bzip command. Decompress. Check what's output. A new file data6. What was used to compress this? It's a tar archive. Let's go back to the top of the screen. What was it called again? Data6. So rename data6 to data6.tar. use the tar command, extract file flag, check what was output, data 8, so let's remove data 6 for clarity. Check what was used on data 8, gzip. See, this is the point in the original, when I went through this the first time, that I thought I was doing something wrong. It's not the case. It has just been compressed like a maximum amount of times. So if you feel like you're going in circles, you're not. Don't doubt it. We are still working our way towards a solution. Okay, so gzip was used to on data 8, so we need to rename that. To gzip. And then we use gzip decompress on data 8. What do we have? Data 8. And finally, we have returned to its original state ASCII text. And we can read data 8. And there's our password, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, Control, Shift, copy, and exit to sever the connection. Do appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.